In the heart of Southern Africa lies one of the most powerful, influential, and enigmatic religious movements on the continent, the Zion Christian Church, or ZCC. With its iconic star badge, strict discipline, large congregations, and deep-rooted traditions, the ZCC commands both admiration and controversy. With millions of followers across South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and beyond, it is more than just a church. It is a social, cultural, economic, and spiritual institution. But with that power comes an unsettling question that has surfaced in whispers, online debates, and skeptical minds. Is the ZCC a church or a cult? This is not an accusation, but an exploration, an attempt to understand why such a question exists, what defines a cult, and how the ZCC fits or challenges that definition. Understanding what a cult is. To question whether something is a cult, we must first unpack the term itself. The word cult is loaded with emotion and stigma. In popular culture, it often refers to secretive groups that manipulate their members, isolate them from outsiders, and demand unquestioning loyalty to a central figure. However, the academic definition is broader and more nuanced. Sociologists generally define a cult as 1. A religious or social group with unorthodox or spin-off beliefs. 2. A strong authoritarian leadership, often centered around one figure. 3. A high level of control over members' lives, how they dress, think, associate, or even marry. 4. Isolation from outside influences or society. 5. Difficulty living without consequences, social, psychological, or even physical. So, does ZCC fit this mold? A brief history of ZCC. Founded in 1910 by Lekganyane, the ZCC was a breakaway from the Christian Catholic Apostolic Church in Zion. The church claimed divine visions and healing powers that would go on to shape its entire doctrine. Today, ZCC is led by Bishop Barnabas Lekganyane, a direct descendant of the founder. The church is headquartered in Moria, Limpopo, a site that becomes a spiritual capital during Easter, drawing hundreds of thousands of pilgrims in a spectacular annual gathering. ZCC is divided into two major fractions, ZCC Star Badge and ZCC Saint Agnes Dave Badge, both led by different branches of the Lekganyane family. From the beginning, ZCC fused Christian theology with African traditional practices, faith healing, prophecy, dreams, and ancestral influence, creating a uniquely African Christian identity. It's not just a church service, it's a lifestyle. But to fully understand the power and pull of ZCC, we must step into the most sacred space, Moria. Inside Moria, the heartbeat of ZCC. To many ZCC members, Moria is not just a church headquarters. It is a spiritual home, a holy city located in Limpopo. Moria is the site of the church's annual Easter pilgrimage, which draws hundreds of thousands of followers each year. The journey to Moria is more than just tradition. It is devotion in motion. Families travel by taxis, buses, and on foot from all corners of Southern Africa. Some sleep in open fields or tents for days just to be part of the sacred gathering. It is a mass movement of people who see Moria as a place where prayers are answered, sins are washed away, and power flows from the divine. Once inside Moria, order replaces chaos. Uniformed members from lines and regiments, military-like formations, march across vast open spaces while singing powerful ZCC hymns. The sounds of drums, chants, and synchronized footsteps blend into an experience that feels both deeply spiritual and awe-inspiring. At the center of it all is the bishop. Though he rarely speaks, his presence alone sends waves of emotion across the crowds. When he appears, usually for a brief moment, some people cry, scream, or collapse in ecstasy. There are no live streams, no cameras, no reporters. What happens in Moria stays in Moria. For many, it is a sacred and private covenant with God. For outsiders and even some former members, the secrecy only deepens suspicion. Why so hidden? What are they protecting or controlling? Economically, Moria is also a major event. Vendors sell church merchandise, food and supplies. Transport industries prepare for months in advance. It is a multi-million rand movement, and members often save all year to attend. To some, Moria is a spiritual revival. To others, it raises uncomfortable questions about loyalty, control, and spectacle. Signs that spark the cult question. So why do people question whether ZCC is a cult? There are several reasons, some rooted in genuine concern, others in misunderstanding, fear, or prejudice. Let's look at the most debated aspects. 1. Secrecy and exclusivity. ZCC is notoriously private. It discourages members from openly discussing its internal practices with outsiders. Photography, filming, and media coverage are strictly limited. Services are not televised. The headquarters in Moria does not grant easy access. This veil of secrecy has fed public suspicion. For many people, secrecy equals control. The question becomes, why hide if there's nothing to fear? But defenders of ZCC argue that this privacy protects sacred rituals from mockery and misrepresentation. They argue Christianity was once outlawed too. Just because we do things differently doesn't make us a cult. 2. Strict rules and loyalty. ZCC members follow strict lifestyle rules. No alcohol, no smoking, no premarital sex, modest dressing, and often limited association with worldly influences. Certain hairstyles and even celebrations like birthdays or Christmas may be discouraged. Members are expected to display unwavering loyalty to the church and its leader. Many wear the iconic star badge or uniform daily, identifying themselves by faith more than even by family or nationality. This total identification with the church leads to concern about control. Is it still faith, or is it control over identity? 3. Authoritarian leadership. The leadership of ZCC is dynastic and absolute. The bishop's word is final. His image is revered. He does not preach publicly or grant media interviews. His authority is passed down through bloodline, not elected by a congregation or council. Critics argue this centralization of power without transparency or accountability echoes cult behavior. There's no room to question doctrine or leadership decisions without being seen as rebellious or even spiritually dangerous. On the other hand, defenders claim this is no different from Catholic reverence for the Pope or traditional respect for elders. Hierarchy exists in every faith. 4. Fear-based teachings. Many ex-members describe fear as a driving force in their time within the church. Fear of punishment, fear of spiritual attack, fear of being cursed or banished. Some believe that leaving the church brings misfortune or that outsiders are spiritually unclean. There are even claims, though hard to verify, that people have been ostracized or spiritually threatened for leaving the church. This perception of spiritual blackmail is deeply troubling, but again, many religions emphasize consequences for disobedience or loss of spiritual covering. Is this unique to ZCC, or a universal trait of institutional religion? 5. The uniform. Big shoes. One of the most striking and controversial aspects of the ZCC is its strict and symbolic uniform, especially the oversized platform shoes worn by many of its male members, particularly those in the star branch. These shoes are called manyanyata. They are not merely a fashion choice but a mandated part of the church's dress code, often worn during marches, ceremonies, and church gatherings. While the official narrative ties them to unity, discipline, and spiritual symbolism, the exaggerated size and uniformity have raised eyebrows. Why must everyone wear them? And why are they so large? To outsiders, it suggests a form of psychological control, a physical reminder of submission to the group's identity. When religious attire begins to dictate not only modesty but conformity, in such extreme and unexplained ways. It prompts a deeper question. Is this spiritual expression, or is it a tool for conditioning and control, characteristic of cult behavior? 7. The mysterious tea, indayelo. Equally as mysterious as the shoes is the ZCC's infamous tea, a herbal concoction that is revered among members and shrouded in secrecy. Said to possess healing and cleansing powers, the tea is often administered during prayers, rituals, and personal crises. However, the church keeps the ingredients and preparations process hidden from outsiders and even from some members. There is no public explanation or scientific backing for its use, yet it is treated with near sacred reverence. The fact that members are encouraged to trust this unnamed brew for both spiritual and physical ailments without question raises red flags. In many cult-like groups, such secret substances are used to symbolize inner belonging, reinforce obedience, or subtly influence behavior. The ZCC's tea, while seemingly harmless, adds another layer of mystery and control that leads some to wonder, is this a symbol of faith or a ritualistic tool of manipulation? The cultural lens, is it Western judgment or real concern? Part of the cult accusations may stem from cultural misunderstanding. African spirituality has long been demonized by Western frameworks. Practices like prophecy, dream interpretation, or spiritual healing are common across the continent, but are often labeled cultic when they don't fit into Eurocentric religious models. So the question arises, are we calling ZCC a cult because it actually manipulates people, or because it doesn't look like the Christianity we're used to seeing on TV? To many Black South Africans, ZCC represents decolonized Christianity. It speaks their language, literally and spiritually. It allows for ancestral presence, communal identity, and holistic healing. It feels African in a way no imported church ever has. Voices from the inside and outside. Let's not ignore the many ZCC members who describe their faith as a source of strength, discipline, and purpose. Many testify that the church helps them leave addiction, find peace, or become more responsible citizens. For every ex-member sharing horror stories, there are countless current members who find comfort in the structure and traditions of ZCC. Still, the inability to question leadership, the taboo around leaving, and the absence of transparency deserves examination. Love for your church should not mean blind submission. Conclusion. Is ZCC a cult? The answer depends on how you define the term and how willing you are to look past your own biases. By academic definition, ZCC shares characteristics with groups considered cults: secrecy, strict control, authoritative leadership, and fear-based obedience. But it also shares those traits with many mainstream religions at different times in history. What makes ZCC different is its scale, influence, and deep integration into African identity. That makes it less of a fringe group and more of a cultural movement. So perhaps the better question isn't, is ZCC a cult, but does ZCC need more transparency, accountability, and openness to reform? Faith should uplift, not imprison. And any institution, no matter how old, how powerful, or how beloved, should never be above scrutiny.